question is, when staring at your big goal and it seems like a massive elephant that you can't conquer, what will you do? Well, that's the question, and this podcast, Eat Your Elephant, is here to help you to find the answer that will keep you moving forward and making progress. Because you can eat your elephant one bite at a time. I'm your host, Nick Macy, and let's dive right in. Today we're going to talk about those reasonable excuses. Before we do that, though, I want to know what your number one biggest challenge is. What's holding you back from achieving your goals? If you would, take just a moment, go to nickmazy.com/survey and let me know the number one biggest challenge you're experiencing when trying to achieve the things that you want in your life. It'll be a huge help just for me to continue to improve the podcast material and such. So thank you, and just go to nickmazy.com/survey. So these reasonable excuses. The reasonable excuses, they can be the worst ones. Because when an excuse is reasonable, when it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Well, then you believe it. And when we believe an excuse, that's when it becomes a real barrier limitation. The reasonable excuses are the ones that are going to stop you from making the progress that you could be making, but you're not because you believe the excuse. So what is a reasonable excuse? Well, honestly, one of the first ones that comes to mind for me is I'm too busy. Because I know that I know I'm not alone in feeling like just being busy a lot of the times. So, yes, you could be very busy. But saying I'm too busy, it's also an excuse. It's a reasonable one because you might be busy. But it's still an excuse. You might be a professional with demands at work and family and splitting your time between here and there and lots of things to take care of, goals to achieve, and many more things. Yes, you could be very busy. I'm not saying anything, against that. But why it's a reasonable excuse is because, see, it makes sense. You're too busy to do anything more than what you're already doing right now. And if your time's at capacity, then that makes sense. The problem with it being an excuse is that you just throw it off on the excuse. Well, I'm too busy. Well, you might be busy. I might be busy. I might have a lot of things to do. But if I tell somebody else, oh, I'm just too busy, then I'm using that as an excuse as if I don't have a choice. I am choosing to do what I do. And then therefore, I'm choosing not to do something else because the other things that I've already agreed to are a higher priority. That's it. It's my choice. But if I brush somebody off or even tell myself, well, I can't, I'm too busy, I'm not really acknowledging the real fact of I have chosen to spend my time doing something else. And just like me, you get to choose what you do. Okay? Now, if I didn't step on enough toes with that first a reasonable excuse, here's another one. It takes money to make money. Now, this one might not apply exactly to the goals that you're working toward, but it's a pretty common excuse that people use, and I'm sure you've heard it. But there's plenty of people that didn't start off with a ton of money that have been being able to be successful financially. And the resource that you're looking for, it might not be money. But whatever it is, there are plenty of people out there that have been successful in just about any area of life with or without whatever resources. It's a reasonable excuse because, yes, if you had more resources, achieving certain things would be easier, faster, and all that. But the real issue is that when we believe the excuse, when you believe that you don't have the resource to do what you need to do, then it's easier just to give up and say, okay, I can't do it. That's the problem with the excuse, is that just because it's a reason why it might be more difficult, it's not a reason why it can't happen. Whatever resources you have, I'm going to step out on a limb and say there's somebody out there who has done great things with less resources. And this is something that I catch myself in sometimes. And not necessarily it takes money to make money, but that I wish that I had better or more resources so that I could achieve my goals a little faster. It happens. But I try not to really believe that excuse that comes up in my head, because I know that regardless of my resources, I can make progress and I can improve my situation. And I believe that the same is true for you. And the last excuse, is just about anything else. Anything that you tell yourself or that you say out loud and that you believe and that is holding you back or that believing it is holding you back. No matter how plausible and reasonable that it sounds, it can be an excuse. Just really be careful, because when you believe the excuses, that's what ends up holding you back. And then you don't do the things that you can do because, I don't have the money, I'm too busy, I can't do that. Well, some people are born motivated and I'm not. I can't do this because of that. Whatever that excuse. Now, what if it's a reason and not an excuse? Okay, and then there's legitimate reasons why some people can't achieve certain things. I thought about listing a whole bunch of reasons why people don't succeed and then searching and finding successful people that overcame those challenges. But I didn't. If you want to look up some inspirational stories, you can Google those. They're all over the place. And frankly, if I did it in this podcast, I don't think I'd give adequate credit to those who actually overcame the challenges. Instead, if there's a reason why you can't achieve a goal, then ask yourself some of these questions. Is there something I can do about it? If there's whatever your reason, your excuse or whatnot, is there something you can do about it? Would learning a new skill or developing a new habit be helpful? Has anyone anywhere ever overcame that challenge? Can you see it as a challenge and not, an absolute reason why you can't succeed? Is it just a challenge? Now, here's one that a lot of people don't like, but I love. Can't, never could. If you believe that you can't do something, you'll be right. You won't. And then, like I said, just Google some inspirational stories, and there's people out there that have overcome insane challenges and obstacles. And clearly I know that this episode's not the most feel-good, warm and fuzzy feeling episode out there to encourage you to take action. What it is, it's realistic. You'll believe what you tell yourself. If you tell yourself you can't, you'll probably be right. So watch out for those excuses and even those reasonable ones, because they might stop you. Now, there's a saying that goes along the lines of, there's two types of limitations in this world, the real and the imagined. And only the imagined are the impossible to overcome. It's what we set in our minds that ends up being the limitations that we have for ourselves. So don't believe the excuses that can stop you from achieving the things that you want in your life. This is your life. Go make it what you want it to be. Go conquer your goals. Well, thanks for listening to the Eat Your Elephant podcast. Hope you enjoyed the episodes. If you would, though, please go to nickmazy.com/survey. You can do it anonymously. You can just give me a little bit of information on the challenge that's holding you back for your goals and what you want to achieve in your life. I make these podcast episodes to try to help. And with a little bit of information, I can make sure it's on topic for what you want. And I would really appreciate that, because that way I can succeed in this goal. Well, thanks for listening. Take care. And next time, we're going to talk about one trait for goals, marriage, and life.